Fiona, thank you for joining me today.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Can you tell me about Killian and Charlie?
Killian and Charlie are 14. They are identical twins, and they are a ton of work in a lovely way, but very typical teenagers, I would say, in how they see the world and craving independence, but have a disease that prevents them from being able to, I would say, fulfill the quality of life that maybe the rest of us have come to, or come to expect, or would like them to. They compare themselves to other kids, to their older siblings, and over the years, their world has become very small.
And what is their diagnosis?
They have Gabra1 epilepsy.
Both of them?
Both of them.
So they're identical twins, and they both received the same
diagnosis. Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That day of diagnosis had to be very tough. Most people, if they experience some sort of rare diagnosis like this, they have one child, usually. You had two at the same time.
Yeah.
Tell me about that experience.
It was a process trying to get the whole genome testing to begin with. So it almost felt as though that felt like an uphill battle, and getting approval for the various the kind of testing that we felt was needed. So I think that we were lucky enough to be under the care of Dr. Sinato and the genetic team at Seattle Children's, having previously been with Boston Children's Hospital, but as it came to be, the genetic testing was done under the kind of care of neurology at Seattle Children's, and I feel that the preparation there was really helpful in supporting what could or may or may not be a diagnosis. And we weren't really expecting, I guess, to get a diagnosis. That was probably the most shocking part, is that we, for whatever reasons, and looking at what percentage of people actually get a diagnosis, it was still quite a surprise when it came back.
Yeah, and the process of getting them diagnosed. When did you first realize something could be a little bit different about them?
Drug resistant. Killian and Charlie have been on various seizure treatments, epilepsy drugs, since they were 8, since the seizures started. And there was just a constant stream of breakthrough seizures. And because of the unpredictability as well, it's the, I suppose, the knock-on effect of that were these breakthrough seizures, and we just spent so much time in the emergency room because they've had concussions because of having tonic-clonic seizures and at various points and hitting their head, and that feeling of bringing, your child to the emergency room and waiting for that scan to think, is this it? Is this going to be the one where there's a bleed, or, and it's hard as a parent as well to think that when they were toddlers, I had a much, Rob and I had, their dad and I had a much better handle on where they were in the house, or where they were, you knew where they were.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but now as growing up to be these fabulous young men, I can't have eyes on them all the time.
Right.
And that presents a problem when it comes to seizures.
And we were discussing, even before the seizures, we had mentioned before we started recording here, you had a false diagnosis before?
It was, well, the boys were diagnosed with autism at age 5. So there were developmental delays. They were premature, low muscle tone, and just kind of general pervasive developmental delay. When they started school, it was obviously needed additional support. The autism diagnosis came to, and it was when the seizures started, our understanding and the doctor's understanding as well was that because, and this was news to me too at the time, that when you have an autistic child, they have a higher percentage chance of having a seizure disorder or epilepsy. So we always thought that was it. It was because they were autistic that they were having these seizures, and we just, neurology team we kept trying new drugs, and it was really only when it came to the point where there are no more drugs to try, and the quality of life was becoming untenable, and the knock-on effect on, Rob and I and their siblings, it's and extended family. It affects everyone. Teachers, the people who care for them, they're like the people who come into their lives, and so getting the diagnosis was shocking, but almost a relief as well to think, okay, we have something here. Maybe now it's something tangible that we can work with.
Yeah.
And it's been recent. It's only been since September that we got the diagnosis. So
really?
So it's very new. And I think that mind shift of associating their seizures, the epilepsy, with autism for so many years, with the fact that they're autistic and they fall on the spectrum, but now having to rethink everything, that there's this GABRA1 epilepsy that has essentially been at play all along.
Right. So is it a co-diagnosis now with autism?
Yes. That's what I believe. I'm still trying to catch up, and it's they present very similarly medically, but personality-wise, they couldn't be more different. So it's even when they have seizures the same day, it's sometimes it's hard to keep track of that process.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. Now, you mentioned they have other siblings as well.
They do.
How did you go about telling the other siblings about what's going on with them?
Their older sister and brother have grown up, I suppose, with the boys. There's always been them presenting as and we parent differently as well. When you particularly have a child or children with special needs, I think you parent probably every child differently, but particularly kids with special needs, it's and medical needs, you certainly do parent differently. I think their older sister Amelia Ray and Quinn, their older brother, have. I was going to think that they would be, or they are, incredible in an emergency, because it's almost what they've grown up with. And I mean, that makes me, that breaks my heart in many ways, that they've had to see me and their dad in situations where we think one of the boys is dead or gone. Because of essentially a head injury of hitting the ground because of a seizure, and we've been there several times where it has been unimaginable, and then the sense of relief when you know that that's not the case, that they're going to be okay. So I think they handled the news of the diagnosis the same way we did, as far as certainly a surprise, but almost an answer, something tangible that we can, as a family, work towards. It's helpful that they're both interested. Amelia Ray and Quinn are both interested in the science part of it. So I see that as really interesting. It's given them a real connection between medicine, what the research part of what's going on, what these incredible researchers are doing, and also maybe what they're learning in school and college, and how that helps their brothers and the broader community.
Yeah, that is amazing. I could see that being very powerful, a very powerful, tangible thing for them to have.
It is. I think the lived experience of growing up with siblings who have unmanageable or seizures that are not managed with drug, or drug resistant seizures as such, and then realizing that there's a whole world out there that's, it's quite niche in research. It has opened up, I suppose, a whole new world to them, and connecting the almost abstract with actual reality.
Right. And for anyone that may be experiencing something like this for the first time, can you briefly, or as much as you can, as much as you're willing to, walk me through the kind of protocol for a tonic-clonic seizure if their child is going through this, if there's a parent out there, very scared? I'm sure the first couple of times I couldn't imagine. Can you walk us through, I guess, just some general tips of best practices?
It's a great question. It's there have been I think so. There's I think the National Epilepsy Foundation has incredible trainings, and they're wonderful to sit and watch. And you can, you're in front of your computer, or even going to a CPR class or things like that. But it's when you see your own child turning blue, and your timing, trying to get them in a comfortable position, timing a seizure, like immediately remembering to start the clock, and ensure that there are no, there are soft furnishings around, or to the best of your ability, like calling 911. There's, I think the difficulty, what's been most difficult is almost you become desensitized to the horror that is seeing your baby, essentially, or your child, be deprived of or what looks like deprived of oxygen, and not being medically trained as well. Often second guessing, like, should I call 911? Should I not? There's only so many emergency room visits that you feel like is good for them, is good for you, because often post-ictal or post-seizure, they're okay, and they're, need to just sleep and want to be in their own bed. So it's that fine line of understanding what the best practices are in, making sure the child is safe, and but then in the moment trying to think of those best practices and make the right decision. Obviously I'd say, call 911. That has always been, but I have when you're dealing with ongoing seizures, you can't calling 911 all the time is not practical, or necessary even as well. However, we shouldn't be, as parents, managing ongoing seizures when we know that there are potential, I'd use the word like cures, but potential treatments that could offer relief to our children's reality.
Yeah. If somebody is going through this right now, not just the seizure part, but maybe the diagnosis even of autism or with GABRA1, what is one piece of advice you would give them right now if they had just received the diagnosis?
Go easy on yourself. Try not to think about why or what could you've done differently as to, why this happened, why them, why you, or them, because of obviously the boys. But it's very important to seek answers. I guess like there's that part where you want to, you want an explanation, but often it's also as important to the forward momentum of ensuring that you are thinking about their future rather than dwelling in the past about what caused this, what could have caused it, even if, you get confirmation that there's no reason. It's just, it's still, as a parent, hard to not in some way blame yourself, or even though I think most of us can feel like, okay, it's not my fault, it's not our fault, but that's really hard when your one job, and the most important job, is to ensure that they have a wonderful life and a wonderful quality of life. And when that isn't happening, it's hard not to hold yourself responsible. So
with a rare diagnosis like this, what do you see is the overall value of community?
Oh, it's invaluable. It's from diagnosis to neurology team sending an email. I had a call from Augustina at the CURE GABA organization with the most immense amount of information, support. It just created this whole new window of people into a community of people who had traveled or traveling the same journey, the same set of concerns. I think it's been mentioned previously, or I've heard it, and that I suppose many times, and that's the connection, is that unless you have lived through seeing your child, medically compromised or having uncontrollable seizures, that feeling of thinking that you've lost them multiple times, you live life differently, and it's really hard to explain it's hard to explain what that feels like to somebody that hasn't gone through that. And I think that that's where that shared community, quite aside from that excitement and enthusiasm around research and scientific research and advances for providing our children with the best possible outcome and quality of life. It's, yeah.
Well, Fiona, thank you for joining me today. Thank you for telling us the story of Killian and Charlie. And we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.